Good evening, friends. Today, I'm going to share out of Philippians chapter 1. I've been thinking about um, the topic of false teachers and um, false prophets and people who teach in the wrong way. And I just want to share something that the Lord showed me. Philippians 1, and I'll start with this. And it says, "Many of the brethren in the Lord are waxing confident by my bonds, because they are bold to speak the word without fear. Some indeed preach Christ, even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. The one preach Christ of contention, not sincerely supposing to add affliction to my bonds, but the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. What then? Notwithstanding, in every way, whether in pretence or in truth, Christ is preached, and I therein do rejoice, yea, and I will rejoice." And Paul's talking about how his imprisonment has emboldened many of the brothers to speak. And he's saying that, there's a lot of people preaching Christ. Some people are taking advantage of the situation that he's in prison and he's not there to rebuke them. But some of them are doing it out of a goodwill. But I love what he says here because it's so important for us, I think, to understand or have the same perspective as Paul. Because I was telling somebody the other day, if a lot of these people that are on YouTube or even some of the preachers, majority of them seem to be from like the Baptist church, which I'm not saying Baptists are wrong, but they do spend a lot of times focusing on false teachers or who they believe are false teachers. And even I might agree with them, but I'm not going to talk about it. So, but I want to point out what Paul says right here. He says, I don't care if they're preaching Christ, even in error, if they're doing it for the wrong reasons, like if they're doing it for ungodly gain, if they're doing it for fame, all the wrong reasons, that whatever, in pretense or in truth, he says, notwithstanding, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached, and I therein do rejoice. Yes, and I will rejoice. So it's important to see what Paul's saying, because even if these people are doing it for the wrong reason, Christ is being preached. And Paul says, and I rejoice for this. You know what I mean? And these people who are preaching the gospel, even though they're not doing it for the right reasons, they're still having to mention Jesus. They're still having to talk about what Jesus accomplished. They're still having to acknowledge that Jesus was who he said he was. And this is something to be grateful for. I mean, it's something that we can get beyond the immaturity of trying to force everybody to see things exactly the way we do and preach Christ exactly the way we preach him, and be able to see and be thankful that, hey, Christ is being preached. Maybe I don't see things exactly the way this person sees things, but they're talking about Jesus. And we need to realize that in this world, there's way more people who aren't even talking about Jesus. You know, why is it that when we become Christians, we all of a sudden want to just spend our time judging other Christians? You know what I mean? What? Why are we spending so much time judging the people who are actually trying to tell other people about Jesus, instead of focusing on the people who are trying to convince us that Jesus doesn't exist? You know what I mean? Isn't it strange? I don't think it is strange, because the accuser of the brethren is the accuser of the brethren. He accuses the brothers. So I think that it's interesting, and I think it's funny. I think typically for me, if I see somebody being accused and they're being called a false teacher or a false prophet or whatever, a lot of times I'll think maybe that person might be speaking the truth. Um, and the person who's calling him a false prophet is probably the one that I would need to be weary of, because he's not afraid to speak evil of this person that he probably doesn't even know, never had any interaction with. I'm not saying that, obviously we test everything, and if you know the word, you won't know, you'll know, but we can't hold everybody accountable for um, everything they've said in their entire life. Some preachers may have said something 5 years ago that they may not even agree with it now. And if we aren't watching their entire life and every video they've ever made, we won't see the videos where they talk about, well, I was wrong when I said this. So let's have mercy on people. Let's have mercy on people. And let's be happy that Christ is being preached. Amen.